Okay, we're going to do our final exam review. The first problem is finding the solutions of a cubic equation. So you're going to put this equation in your calculator and find the first solution, and then use synthetic division and the quadratic formula to solve for the other two solutions. Hold on just a moment. Okay, so I'm going to put this in my y equals menu. And we've got x cubed plus 5x squared plus x plus 5. Yep. And then you're going to look at the table and find where y equals 0. So let's keep going, and we have y equals 0 at x equals -5. So our solution is -5. So I've got a solution at x equals -5. So that's what's going to go in my box. And then my constants were 1, 5, 1, and 5 from the constants in the original equation. You bring the 1 down, multiply by -5, multiply around and add down. And this should always be 0 since we know that this was a solution. So now I write the equation as x squared. There's no x term, so I skip that and I just go to 1. And then set that equal to 0 and solve it. So x squared plus 1 equals 0. You could use the quadratic formula, but this one, since I don't have the middle term, it's going to be just as easy to do this. X squared equals -1. And if I take, excuse me, take the square root of both sides, I have square root of x squared equals the square root of -1. So x is going to be the plus or minus square root of -1. Well, remember the square root of -1 is I, so this is going to be plus or minus I. So my three solutions for this equation are -5 and plus or minus I. That would be your answer. Number 2 involves using the fact that sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. The trig identity that says sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. So if you look at this equation and think of these as x's and y's, if you think about it, this is a difference of squares on top. That's also a difference of squares on the bottom, but let's factor this difference of squares. So the square root of sine to the fourth would be sine squared. So it's sine squared plus cosine squared times sine squared minus cosine squared divided by sine squared minus cosine squared. Okay, so I didn't even factor this because I'm looking at, I noticed that I have this on the top and the bottom. So that's actually going to cancel out. It equals 1 when you divide it. So now I look at sine squared plus cosine squared, which I know equals 1. So this whole thing equals 1, and the answer is D. Number 3. This is going to involve special right triangles. So I have the first 30, 60, 90 right triangle here, and I know that this side length is 10. So this is the hypotenuse. I know that the short leg is half the hypotenuse because in a 30, 60, 90, we have x, 2x, and x root 3 for our ratios. So if this is 10, that's my hypotenuse. This is going to be half of that, or 5, which makes this 5 root 3. Okay, so now I have the big triangle. This is the short leg in the big triangle, so this is x. So this is going to be x root 3. So I take 5 root 3 times root 3, which is 5 times 3, and that equals 15. So the answer is D. Number 4. The average height of men age 18 to 55 in a particular city is 180 centimeters and standard deviation 7.5. What is the middle 95%? Okay, so you're going to make your normal distribution, put the 180 in the middle, then add, I only need up to here because I need the 95%, which is plus or minus 2 standard deviations. So I'm going to add that 7.5 twice, and this goes to 195. When I subtract it twice, this goes to 165. So the middle 95% is between 165 and 195 centimeters. Okay, number 5. We've got a normally distributed set of data. The mean is 65. Standard deviation is 7. What number of accidents would you expect to occur less than 5% of the time? So now we need to think of our percentages and the numbers on our number line here. So the standard deviation is 7. So this is 72, 79, and 86. And then we go down to 58, 51, and 44. Now our percentages, 2.35, 13.5, 34, 34. Okay, so less than 5% of the time. Looking at our possibilities, we have 90 accidents, which is somewhere up here. We have 75, which is somewhere in this interval. 65, which is right here, and 55, which is somewhere in this interval. So which of these 4 choices would be less than 5%, would occur less than 5% of the time? Well, here we have occurring somewhere around 13.5% of the time. Here is right in the middle, so it's at 68% of the time. And I'm sorry, 50% of the time. This one is somewhere in around 13.5. This one is the only one that's less than 5% of the time. So the answer would be A, 90 accidents per month. Okay, number 6. Now we have a circle and tangents. It says that PT and PR are tangents, which makes these 90-degree angles because they're always tangent is always perpendicular to the radius. And then TOR is 150 degrees. So we have a total of 180 plus 150. That's 330 degrees. Subtract that from the total of a quadrilateral is 360, and you get 30 degrees. Number 7, another normal distribution. Nope. A battery manufacturer wants to determine how long its batteries will last. They assign a number to each battery, and have the computer select the batteries. That's a classic random sample. Okay, you assign each member of your population a number and draw one at random, completely randomly. That's a random sample. Number 8. Okay, when this polynomial is divided, I'm going to move this a little bit. The quotient is this, and the remainder is this, and we're dividing by that. So I know that I'm dividing by x minus 3, which means 3 goes in the box. It's not, I don't know what my coefficients are, so let's just call those A, B, C, and D for now. I do know that the remainder is negative 2, and the quotient has coefficients of 1, negative 1, and 3. So 1, negative 1, and 3. So now if I add down, well, this number is automatically brought down, so that means A is 1. Okay? Now if I multiply around 1 times 3, I know that whatever B is, B plus 3 is negative 1. So B plus 3 is negative 1. So B is going to be negative 4. So now I can make that negative 4. So I know the first 2 terms of my polynomial. I have 1 and negative 4. Well, I only have one choice there that has 1 and negative 4. Should I keep going? We're thinking this is A. Let's just keep going just to make sure. So now I have 3 times 3 is 9. C plus 9 is 3. Well, this has to be 6. It looks like our answer is going to be A. So we can stop. Number 9. We have a rational equation. My denominators are x plus 1, and x plus 2. So to get my common denominator, this one has to be multiplied by x plus 2, and this one has to be multiplied by x plus 1. This one has to be multiplied by both. Okay, so now the denominators would be gone, and I just set the numerators equal. So 3 times x plus 2 would be 3x plus 6, and then 4 times x plus 1 would be 4x plus 4 is equal to 2 times x squared plus 3x plus 3, which is 2x squared plus 6x, this is 2, plus 4. And so now I can combine like terms on this side. I have 7x plus 10. And I need to get everything on one side. So I'm going to subtract 7x from this and subtract 10 from this. And I have 0 on this side now. These cross out. And this is going to be 2x squared minus x minus 6. So I need to solve that. Factor that. So I have factors of negative 12 that add up to negative 1. It's going to be negative 4 and 3. Then I have to do the stick it. So it looks like my factors are going to be x minus 2 and 2x plus 3, which means my solutions will be 2 and negative 3 halves. That's number 9. Number 10. Now we have a radical equation. For radicals, you have to square both sides to get rid of the radical. So now I have 2x plus 3 equals x squared. Again, it's a quadratic. So that'll give me x squared minus 2x minus 3 equals 0. And I can factor that. Factors of negative 3 that add up to negative 2 be negative 3 and 1. So I have x minus 3, x plus 1 equals 0. And x can equal 3 or negative 1. However, with a radical, you always double check your answers. So plug in 3 and see what that equals. Well, that 2 times 3 is 6, plus 3 is 9. Square root of 9 is 3. So that one checks out. How about negative 1? 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. So this will be the square root of 1. That does not equal negative 1. So this one does not check out, which means my only answer is 3. So the answer would be D. Number 11. We've got another rational equation. Let's move that up. This one you could cross multiply because there's not a second term. You don't have to add or subtract. So you have 3x minus 2 times 2x plus 3 is equal to 3x plus 5 times 2x minus 3. So you've got 6x squared minus 4x plus 9x minus 6 equals 6x squared plus 10x minus 9x minus 15. So I have 6x squared on both sides. Those are going to cancel each other out. Combine like terms, and I have 5x minus 6 equals x minus 15. Subtract x. 4x minus 6 equals negative 15. Add 6. 4x equals negative 9. So x is going to be negative 9 over 4. And check to make sure that's not going to make one of these equal to 0. So 2 times negative 9 over 4 plus 3, negative 18 over 4. No, that's not going to cancel out. So this one won't either. So that's going to be a good solution. Number 12. Okay, so we've got a theater, seats 600 people. The owner wants to raise the price. Hopefully you've read through these already. If the owner wants to make $3,500 profit, so Y is your profit, what does he have to charge? So if this is $3,500, what is the ticket price? So X is your ticket price, X is the price, Y is the profit. Remember, when you read these, it's important to know what your variables stand for. Solve for X. You can use the quadratic formula, or you can just plug numbers in. First, let's erase this. Let's move this up. So I'm going to go like this. So I've got 3,500 equals 3,000 plus 350x minus 50x squared. Subtract 3,500. And what we have, I'm going to put everything in order. 0 over here, negative 500 plus 350x minus 50x squared. Okay, so this is my A, this is my B, this is my C. So I have negative 350 plus minus square root of that thing squared. Okay, everything simplified, it comes down to negative 350 plus minus 150 over negative 100. And when you do that, negative 350 plus 150 divided by negative 100, your answers are either 2 or 5. So what's the minimum you can charge? Because it asks the minimum, the least amount. It's going to be $2. Number 13. Natalie kicked a soccer ball using this equation. H equals negative 16t squared plus 50t. Approximately how many seconds went by before the ball hit the ground? So when is the height equal to 0? Okay, so I notice I have a t in both of these. I can factor out. Let's factor out a negative t, and I think I can factor out a 2. So negative 2t equals 8t plus 25. Excuse me, I'm just going to go ahead and put this in the calculator. Let's just put it in the calculator. So in your y equals menu, you put negative 16t squared plus 50t. And then you want to see where it crosses the x-axis. Okay, and it looks like it's just above 3, so it's going to be the 3.1 seconds. You could find the x-intercept, the zeros. Number 14. A city starts with a population of 500,000 people. Its population declines according to this equation. Approximately when will the population be half? Okay, so the population at half, if this is the whole population, half would be 0.5. So 0.5 equals, and I don't need this now because I divided already. This would be 250. If I divide by 500,000, this is 1/2, so 0.5 equals e to the negative 0.099t. You have to take the log or natural log of both sides. So I have natural log of 0.5 equals negative 0.099t. Divide by negative 0.099. And when you do that in your calculator, natural log of 5 divided by negative 0.099, you get what number am I doing? You get approximately 7 years. Okay, so remember we started in the year 2007, so 7 years later would be 2014. Number 15, population is 6,000 to start with. It's decreasing by 3% per year. Okay, so we're still trying to figure out how long it will be before 60% of the species remains. This is an exponential decay function, so it's going to be the equation y equals a times 1 minus r to the t, where a is the beginning amount, y is the ending amount, and r is your rate of decay. T is time, which is what we're going to be solving for. So in this problem, a is our beginning amount, so that's 6,000. And then 1 minus r, so 1 minus 0.03 will be 0.97. So 6,000 times 0.97 to the power of t is equal to 60% of 3,600, which would be, or 60% of 6,000, which would be 3,600. So that's what we're going to be solving. First, you're going to divide. So let's do this for now. Let's divide by 6,000. And that gives us 0.6 equals 0.97 to the power of t. And then you take the log of both sides, because anytime you have an exponent that's a variable, you take the log of both sides. So I have log 0.6, and remember the power property says to put that t in front. So t log 0.97 divided by log 0.97. And when you do log 0.6 divided by log 0.97, you should get approximately 16.8 years. Okay, and your last problem is a proof. We have a pair of triangles. We're given that VT bisects RW, so that makes these two pieces equal. And RS is congruent to WS by the definition of bisector. Angle RSV is congruent to WST by vertical angles. RW bisects TV, which makes these two pieces congruent. So now we have side, angle, side congruency. And that's the end.